Chosen one, the hardest test God allowed you to face was not simply whether you could survive what happened, it was whether what happened could change who you are. You were disappointed, but you did not let disappointment become your identity. You were betrayed, but you did not give betrayal permission to turn you into the kind of person who betrayed you. You had nights when your faith felt thin. You had moments when anger spoke louder than wisdom. You had days when you wanted to disappear from everything, but you kept returning. And that return matters because passing a spiritual test does not mean you never broke down. It means the breakdown did not get the final word. You have been called strong. You have been called resilient. You may have called yourself a survivor, but there is a more accurate name for where you are now. You were tested without allowing the test to own your identity. That is why what comes next matters so much. The hardest part was not the pain itself. The hardest part was the response the pain tried to pull out of you. You could have used your wound as permission to wound others. You could have taken a shortcut that violated your conscience because waiting felt unfair. But something inside you kept saying no. Maybe you did not say no perfectly. Maybe you fell apart first. Maybe fear took over for a night before you chose peace again the next morning. None of that erases the deeper pattern. Your worst moment inside the test is not always the verdict on how you took the test. They remember the tears, anger, confusion, and days when prayer felt empty. But endurance is not emotional, numbness, and faith is not. Pretending pain does not hurt. The real question is what you kept returning to after pain knocked you off center. Did you return to truth? Did you return to restraint? Did you return to the boundary you knew you needed? Did you return to the part of yourself that refused to become cruel? You did not pass because you never fell. You passed because falling did not become your identity. You did not pass because you never doubted. You passed because doubt did not permanently replace what you knew in your deepest spirit. You passed because you learned how to return. The season was not only measuring how much pressure you could take, it was revealing who had authority over your response when life stopped giving you easy reasons to stay soft, honest, patient, and clear. That is a harder test than simple survival. If this is speaking directly to your season, leave one simple confession in the comments. I returned. Not because every moment was beautiful, not because every response was perfect, but because the pain did not get the last word on who you became. Now there is one hidden problem strong people rarely see coming. The test can end before your mind realizes it has ended. You can leave the fire and still smell smoke everywhere. You can pray for change, see movement, and then hesitate at the very door you once asked God to open. That does not automatically mean you failed. It may mean you became exceptionally good at surviving. And survival can become expensive when you carry it into a season that requires reception. Before we go there, you need to understand what the test was really measuring in you. What was the test really measuring? Not whether you could stay calm every second, not whether you could avoid every wrong thought. It was measuring what you returned to when pressure exposed, the parts of you that were tired, afraid, disappointed, and ready to protect themselves at any cost. This is what I call the response test. It begins where appearances stop helping you, but pressure reveals what you reach for when reassurance disappears. And that is why this test can feel so personal. Think about one moment from your season. Maybe someone crossed a boundary you had explained many times. Maybe an opportunity collapsed after you had already thanked God for it. That was the moment your response became more revealing than your words. You may have reacted badly at first. You may have cried, withdrawn, argued, or questioned everything. But what happened after that? Did you stay inside the reaction, or did something in you begin finding its way back to truth? That distinction matters. A temporary reaction is not the same as a permanent direction. Peter failed loudly under pressure, yet failure was not the final shape of his life. Elijah reached a place of deep exhaustion, Yet exhaustion was not proof that his calling had disappeared. There is an old Greek word connected with testing, dokimion. It carries the sense of something being proved genuine through testing. The point is that pressure can reveal what is real when comfort can no longer hide what you depend on. That is why perfection is the wrong measurement. If perfection were the test, almost nobody would pass a difficult season. The deeper measurement is direction. When fear pulled you one way, what eventually called you back? When bitterness invited you to stay, what made you release it? When compromise offered relief, why did part of you still know the cost was too high? You returned, sometimes slowly, sometimes after days when you felt spiritually empty, but you returned to the boundary. You returned to honesty. You returned to prayer when prayer stopped feeling dramatic. You returned to the person you still wanted to be. That is the response test. It does not ask whether pain touched you. It asks whether pain became your authority. And if pain did not become your authority, then the season may have produced something deeper than visible success. Some of you believe one breakdown canceled years of faithfulness. It did not. One fearful decision does not erase every courageous return. One season of confusion does not automatically erase the truth you kept coming back to. So, stop using your weakest hour as the summary of your entire test. Look at the pattern. Look at what you chose again and again after the first reaction passed. That is evidence. Not evidence that you were flawless. Evidence that the wound did not get full ownership of your character. And once you see that, a painful question begins to change. You stop asking, "Why was I not stronger?" You begin asking, "What did this season prove I can now be trusted to carry?" But that opens a harder question. If you passed by returning to what was right, why did the test have to last so long? Why did the pressure keep touching the same places after you thought you had already learned the lesson? The answer has less to do with punishment than you may think. So why did the pressure last so long? Why did the same fear seem to return after you thought you had already learned the lesson? The answer is not that every painful event was personally sent by God, but a long season can expose things a short crisis never has time to reveal. A brief storm can show your reaction. Sustained pressure shows your identity under repetition. That is why long tests feel different. They do not only touch your circumstances, they keep touching the places where identity has been quietly attached to control. Under pressure, three things often become visible. First, what you try to control when uncertainty rises. Second, what receives most of your attention when fear takes over. Third, who you become when nobody outside you is confirming that you are still on the right path. Control can look responsible at first, but eventually preparation turns into surveillance, and your mind starts acting as if nothing can be safe unless you personally predict it. Attention can become another hidden altar. If every quiet moment is filled with checking, comparing, worrying, and searching for signs, then fear can occupy more space than the truth you say you believe. That does not make you bad. It shows you where the pressure found leverage. Then comes external validation. You want one visible breakthrough to prove your prayers mattered. Those desires are human, but the test becomes deeper when your identity can remain intact before the evidence arrives. This is the character under pressure principle. Pressure does not magically make you noble. It reveals what has been carrying your identity when comfortable conditions disappear. Consider a woman who finally leaves a relationship where every boundary was treated like an offense. She nearly returns, not because the relationship became healthy, but because loneliness makes the old pattern feel familiar. Then something shifts. She does not need to hate the other person to keep the boundary. She can grieve and still refuse to abandon herself. That is not emotional perfection. That is identity becoming more stable under pressure. You broke down, but you did not go back to everything that broke you. You felt anger, but you did not let anger not become your permanent language. You wanted revenge, but you knew becoming cruel would make the wound larger. So do not confuse pain with failure. Do not confuse grief with spiritual weakness. And do not confuse a difficult return to center with proof that you learned nothing. The fact that you had to return does not cancel the fact that you returned. This is where the title of your season begins to change. You are no longer only the person who endured pressure. You are the person who discovered what pressure could not buy from you. Yet the deepest part of you remained available to correction. If that is your story, write this simple sentence in the comments. I did not become the wound. Let those words land before you move on. They do not deny what happened. They separate what happened to you from who you are becoming. And that separation matters because the next problem begins after survival. A person can leave the old situation while carrying the old posture into every new room. The relationship ends, but the guarding remains. The crisis passes, but the mind keeps scanning. The test may be over, while part of you is still living inside it. Chosen one, this is where many people become confused. The situation changes, but something inside them does not. The door closes, the person leaves, the crisis passes, yet the body still prepares for impact. You wake up and scan your phone. You read a short message and imagine the worst. You receive good news, but your first thought is what could go wrong. You call that discernment. You call it being careful. You call it wisdom earned through experience. But sometimes it is something else. Sometimes the battle has ended while your inner posture is still standing guard. That is the beginning of what I call the after-test lag. The after-test lag is what happens when your external reality moves forward before your internal system catches up. You are no longer in the same room, but your mind still searches for the same threat. You are no longer under the same pressure, but your shoulders tighten, as if one wrong move will bring everything back. This can look spiritual when it is actually survival. You pray, but the prayer feels more like emergency monitoring than communion. You want peace, but when peace arrives, part of you does not trust it. Notice your body for a moment. Do not change anything yet. Just notice your jaw. Notice your shoulders. Notice how deeply you are breathing. Notice whether your stomach is braced, as if something is about to happen. Sometimes the body tells the truth before the mind is ready to name it. And this matters because you may have been blaming yourself for symptoms that do not mean what you think they mean. Mental fog does not automatically mean you are lazy. Hesitation does not automatically mean you lack faith. Difficulty creating does not automatically mean your gift disappeared. A mind that spent too long scanning for danger can have less room for imagination. A person can become so practiced at anticipating problems that receiving a good opportunity feels strangely unsafe. That is not a moral failure. This is why strong people can feel tired even after the visible battle is gone. They learn to function inside pressure. They learn to make decisions while braced. They learn to keep moving while their inner world stayed on alert. And eventually that state started to feel normal. But normal does not always mean necessary. The posture that helped you survive one season may become the posture that keeps you from fully entering the next. That is the paradox. There is also something else I want you to hold. Researchers have studied how the human brain coordinates attention, creativity, pattern recognition, and decision-making. That research points toward a question spiritually sensitive people rarely ask. What if part of what you have been calling spiritual exhaustion also has a physical component you have never been taught to look at? I am going to return to that later, because the answer matters most after you understand the full shape of the problem. For now, do not rush past what you have just recognized. The test may be over. The danger may be gone. The old room may already be behind you. But if your mind is still living there, then the next step is not proving you can survive more. The next step is learning how to leave the battle posture behind. Chosen one, You do not need another test to prove that you passed the last one. You do not need another betrayal to prove your discernment. You do not need another season of lack to prove your faith. At some point, endurance has taught what endurance came to teach. Struggle can become strangely familiar. You know how to fight. You know how to wait. But when peace arrives, you may not know what to do with it. Some people trust chaos more easily because chaos is what they learn to navigate. The first pattern to release is suspicion toward peace. If a good day makes you nervous, notice that. If kindness makes you search for hidden motives, notice that. If an open door immediately makes you prepare for disappointment, notice that too. Peace is not always a setup. Rest is not always the calm before another storm. Sometimes rest is simply rest. Sometimes a door opens because a door opened. You do not have to punish every blessing with suspicion before you allow yourself to receive it. The second pattern is addiction to struggle. Not because you enjoy pain, but because struggle gives you a role you understand. In struggle, you know who you are. You are the strong one. You are the one who keeps everyone together. You are the one who survives. But who are you when nothing needs rescuing today? Who are you when there is no emergency to solve? Who are you when the next faithful act is not fighting harder, but receiving and resting? The third pattern is treating rest like disobedience. You sit down, and guilt appears. You stop checking, and anxiety tells you something is being missed. You try to enjoy a quiet hour, but part of you believes productivity is the price of safety. That is not always discipline. Sometimes it is fear wearing disciplined clothes. The distinction matters because you cannot heal a fear pattern by praising it as virtue. Imagine waking tomorrow without immediately scanning for danger. Imagine reading a message without building 5 negative futures around it. Imagine sitting with a decision and feeling enough inner space to hear your own thoughts clearly. Imagine creativity returning because your mind is no longer spending its energy predicting problems. Imagine prayer becoming less like an alarm system and more like relationship. Imagine noticing an opportunity without immediately disqualifying yourself. This is the receiving state. It is not passive. It is not careless. It is the ability to remain clear without needing crisis to tell you who you are. And for many chosen ones, that transition is harder than the battle itself because the battle became familiar. If this is where you are, leave one sentence in the comments. I release the battle posture. You are not saying the past did not matter. You are saying the past no longer gets to choose the position of your body, the direction of your attention, or the limits of your future. You do not need more punishment. You do not need to manufacture another proving ground. You may be standing at a threshold where the missing skill is not more endurance. It is learning how to receive from a mind that is no longer organized around survival. And that brings us back to the question I asked you to hold. Why can someone understand all of this, agree with every word, and still feel no movement inside? Why can the spirit say yes while the mind remains foggy, hesitant, and tired? Why can someone understand every truth we have discussed and still feel no movement? Why can the spirit say yes while the mind remains foggy, hesitant, and exhausted? The missing piece may not be another belief. It may be the condition of the receiver carrying that belief. Earlier, I asked you to hold a question. What if part of what you call spiritual exhaustion has a physical component you never examined? I waited because a solution means little until you understand the problem it addresses. You now understand the shape of that problem. The test trained your attention and expectations around survival. You became skilled at monitoring danger, delaying hope, and preparing for disappointment. That skill was useful. It may even have protected you, but a pattern can be useful in one season and limiting in another. This is where clarity becomes more important than intensity. So let us make the entire message plain. You passed the test because pain did not become the final authority over your response. You were not perfect, but you kept returning to what you knew was right. That is the why. The what is this? A survival pattern can remain active after the original pressure is gone. It can show up as fog, overthinking, hesitation, guarded hope, constant checking, and difficulty creating. Those signs do not automatically mean you lack faith or discipline. The who is the person you are becoming now. You are not being asked to prove that you can survive forever. You are becoming someone capable of receiving, stewarding, deciding, creating, and moving without needing fear to organize every next step. That is the shift. Tested does not have to become your permanent identity. Survivor does not have to become the only role you know. Strength can remain, while the battle posture is allowed to leave. And this is why the research I mentioned earlier matters. Attention, creativity, integration, and clear decision-making also have a neurological layer. That does not reduce spiritual life to biology. It means the mind you use to pray, choose, and discern is still a physical mind. Scientists have studied how different brain regions contribute to language, spatial awareness, analysis, and integrated thinking. Famous work in this area examined the two hemispheres and what happens when communication between them is altered. I want to be careful here. A tool cannot manufacture faith or decide your calling. It cannot replace prayer, wisdom, medical care, or obedience. But it is worth asking whether mental clarity affects how fully you engage with what you already believe. That is the bridge we are about to cross. Not from God to a gadget, not from faith to a shortcut, from understanding the spiritual lesson to asking whether there is also a practical way to support the receiver carrying that lesson. The strength that carried you through the test was real, but the state required to survive it is not the state you are required to keep. This is where the deeper answer begins. The question is no longer whether you passed. The question is whether the mind that survived the old season is ready to operate with the clarity, integration, and openness the next season will require. There is research behind that question, and a specific approach built around it. Next, I will show you what that approach claims to do, what mechanism it uses, and why it caught the attention of people who felt clear in spirit but foggy in mind. Do not confuse this with another test. You are not being asked to prove yourself again. You are being invited to examine whether the receiver can be supported now that the message has become clear. You have heard me use the word receiver. Now I want to close the loop I opened earlier. The product material builds its approach around research on coordination across different parts of the brain. In 1981, Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize for research involving the specialized functions of the two cerebral hemispheres. The material behind this program points to that work as its scientific foundation, then makes a further claim about supporting more integrated activity between the two sides. This is not a promise that one audio track can create faith, wisdom, success, or destiny. It is a commercial program built around what it calls neural sync technology, with the goal of supporting what the creators describe as whole brain activation. A woman from California described feeling mentally foggy and emotionally disconnected after trying several practices without much change. The product material says she later reported greater clarity and stronger connection in daily life. A man from Texas described another side of it. He was carrying business and family pressure while feeling mentally dull and indecisive. The material says he later reported clearer thinking and a stronger sense that his mind was working with him again. Those are reports, not guarantees. The program is called the Genius Switch. It is an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence designed to be used with headphones once a day. The creators call the method neural sync technology and position the goal as supporting synchronization between the hemispheres. The Genius Switch is not presented as meditation. Its central claim is more specific. The material says the sequence was designed to support an integrated mental state associated with clearer thinking, creativity, and decision-making. This is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who has stopped treating mental fog as a character flaw, and who wants to examine whether a practical tool might support clarity, while faith, obedience, discernment, and responsibility remain where they belong. The product material says colleagues considered the underlying value much higher, even around $500. The listed price is $49. On the current sales page, described in the file, the offer is $39. It also includes 4 bonuses. There is a guided visualization, a grocery shopping guide, a classic manifestation book included as a bonus, and a printable infographic built around 5 habits. The purchase also includes lifetime digital access and a money-back guarantee. No responsible person should treat a testimonial as a promise of identical results. If you explore this, read the terms on the official page and decide from a clear mind rather than from pressure. The material also warns that similar tracks can appear elsewhere without the same claimed technology behind them. If you choose to look further, use the link in the description or the pinned comment that points to the official page. The $39 price is described as a current page offer, and the material says that price may increase. That is not a reason to panic. It is simply a reason not to assume the same offer will always be there. If your spirit resonates with what has been described, the link in the description and pinned comment is there for you to review. Read the details, look at the guarantee, make your own decision. A tool can support clarity, but it cannot replace God or the obedience that still belongs to you. The deeper current of this message is not about buying something. It is about what happens when a person finally realizes the battle is over, yet part of them is still standing guard. That is where we return now. A tool does not replace God. It does not obey for you. What it can do, if it helps you, is support one practical layer, while the deeper work of identity still belongs to you. And this is where the final breakthrough begins. You may still be looking for the next attack. You may call that discernment, because vigilance once kept you safe. But hypervigilance and discernment are not the same thing. Discernment can be quiet. Fear demands constant checking. Discernment protects what matters without turning every unknown person, opportunity, or silence into a threat. When suffering lasts long enough, struggle can become part of identity. You stop saying, "I am going through a hard season." Somewhere inside, the sentence becomes, "I am the person who always has to fight." That shift is subtle, but it changes everything. If fighting becomes your identity, peace can feel empty. You may delay good decisions because struggle has taught you that every important thing must hurt first. Chosen one, hear this carefully. The final test may be whether you can stop proving that you can survive. You already know how to endure. You already know how to carry weight. The next season may require a different strength. The strength to receive without suspicion and to steward without fear. You do not need to ask God to show you how much more you can withstand. A different prayer may fit this moment. Teach me how to live from what this season formed in me. Teach me how to carry wisdom without carrying the fear that produced it. Imagine what that could look like in ordinary life. Someone you love speaks honestly, and you listen without preparing a defense before the sentence is finished. A financial decision appears, and you study it carefully without letting panic make the choice for you. A creative idea comes back. This time you do not kill it with 10 reasons it might fail. You give it an hour. You write the first page. You make the call. You let clarity become action. Imagine a boundary that no longer needs anger to remain strong. Imagine waking up and allowing a quiet morning to be quiet without treating peace like evidence that something bad is approaching. This is the receiving state. It is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is the ability to carry the lessons of survival without continuing to live as if survival is your only assignment. And for the chosen one who felt something stir when clarity and the mind were mentioned earlier, the resource I described is still available through the description and pinned comment. Review it only if it fits you. That door can remain open without becoming the center of this message. Now close that loop. The product is not the promise. The tool is not the calling. Your deepest transition is still this. You are learning to become a person who no longer needs another battle to know who they are. If these words belong to your season, leave one sentence in the comments. I survived it. Now, I receive. Let that be more than a phrase. Let it mark the point where endurance stops being your only language. You were tested, you learned, you returned. But you are not being asked to remain inside the test forever. What comes next is not another argument with the past. It is permission to carry the wisdom forward while leaving the posture of war behind. Chosen one, before this message closes, give yourself one quiet moment. Let your hands rest. Let your shoulders drop. Take one slow breath and do not force anything. You do not need to perform peace. You only need to notice what happens when you stop preparing for the next blow. Picture the version of you who survived the hardest part. See that person standing in front of you with all the armor they needed. Do not judge that version of yourself. That armor had a purpose. But armor can protect you in battle and still become too heavy to wear in a place where the battle has ended. Now imagine taking one piece of that armor off. Only the fear that told you safety could exist only if you remained tense enough to predict every possible loss. Let your jaw soften. Let your shoulders lower. Let your breath move a little deeper. Place one hand over your heart if that feels natural, and let this sentence settle into your body. The armor helped me survive. The armor is not my identity. This is what passing the test the right way means. It does not mean you never became angry, confused, exhausted, or afraid. It means the pain did not receive final authority over your character. You kept one part of yourself available to truth, even when everything around you gave fear a convincing argument. That is why your victory is deeper than survival. You were tested, but you were not owned by the test. You were wounded, but you did not become the wound. So carry the wisdom, leave the fear, carry the discernment, leave the constant scanning, carry the boundary, leave the bitterness, carry the strength, leave the belief that strength must always look like suffering. Say this inside yourself now. I am not the wound. I am not the test. I am not required to remain in survival. I can carry wisdom without carrying fear. I can receive peace without distrusting it. I can create without asking fear for permission. I can enter a new season without dragging every alarm from the old one behind me. What tested me did not own me. What ended does not get to keep living through my posture, my attention, and my expectations. And if this message has named your season, leave one final declaration in the comments. I passed, and I release the test. Let those words mark a boundary between what formed you and what no longer gets to govern you. Chosen one, you do not need another battle to prove your strength. You do not need another wound to prove your faith. Let the next lesson teach you that peace can be trusted and that strength does not disappear when struggle does. Let it be peace. Let it be clarity. Let it be stewardship. Let it be the quiet courage to receive what is good without searching for the hidden cost. You passed because the pain did not decide who you became. Now walk forward as someone who knows the difference between carrying the lesson and carrying the test.